So I didn't really think I would make a video about this, nor did I even know if I was going to see this movie, because I'm going to be honest, this never really interested me. I used to be way more into, like a lot of people, I used to be way more into the MCU stuff. But then after Endgame, even honestly a little bit before Endgame, I started to sort of falter in caring, you know? After Endgame, yeah, I kind of was like, I don't really care that much anymore. And but I still would check out, like, a movie if it interested me, or even if like I didn't see, like, I didn't really care about Eternals, but like I saw it on like streaming, you know. I didn't go to see that in theaters, stuff like that. This is pretty normal. This is pretty like, I think most people were like this. But, we all know after a few movies, yeah, it's pretty clear that something needed to change. Because the problem was they were just, like, constantly, like, setting things up with no payoff or, like, just nothing. It was just nothing. It was boring. There were ones I liked. I liked No Way Home. I liked Deadpool. I like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That was probably the best one post Endgame. But those were all pretty self-contained. It's been a while since I had any interest in like what they were pushing for like the main narrative, I guess, or just any movie in general. But Thunderbolts, it came out and the reviews are really good and there was good word of mouth, so I saw it last weekend and I really liked it. It honestly might be one of my favorite like Marvel movies, period. Not like, not like S tier, but like A tier. Yeah, I was very, very surprised how much I liked this movie. Like, I don't think I'm gonna go that spoilery, just because, like, I don't want to do a full plot breakdown. I don't want to, like, if anyone's interested. I don't know who's watching this because this is going on the second channel. This is more so just, I just want to make stuff like this, but, if you're interested in seeing the movie, I don't really want to spoil the plot or what happens. But I guess the only thing I'll spoil are like themes that maybe you don't know the movie's about. So if you want to go completely blind, I would just say go check it out, because if you want something that's like more personal and not, big exploding CGI mess, if you want a more personal but still like fitting the Marvel sort of guarantee of this is probably going to be fun, like from pre-Endgame, then yeah, I say with this definitely fills it. It really does feel like a the good parts of like something like the Winter Soldier or Civil War or something like that, of just like nice character interactions and like fun little action stuff like that. But I think that this goes into places. This is where spoilers begin, like theme spoilers. This is where the movie kind of goes into its own little direction. That it's a bit more Uncharted in terms of the themes that it focuses on, because there's a lot of emphasis on, mental health and, psychological issues, which I'm not going to act like this is the first movie to ever do it, or this is like, the new gold standard on how to address that stuff, because there are tons of movies that go further into this stuff. There's tons of movies that are more personal, tons of movies that are not, at the end of the day, like, from a billion-dollar company, from like the Marvel brand, whatever, But I just think it's nice to see these themes in this kind of movie, where we look, there's a lot of examples where you can be watching a movie and you can see them try to put some like like metaphor or some like analogy for mental health, or they'll just like the whole meme where it's like they just throw in like a panic attack or whatever, and like that's fine, and that, but it's like it's like you're treating it like it's just like a cameo of like, oh, it's depression cameo, or like, oh, it's a little boom, there it is. But like the themes in this movie, the way they focus on mental health and stuff like that, I think are kind of like baked into the core identity of the movie, and I personally think it was done pretty well. There are a lot of There's a lot of, there's a lot of ideas in there, a lot of like character motivations where like the core value of it is just finding purpose and finding like, a way out pretty much. And I think it handled it in a way that was like a bit on the nose, obviously, because again, I'm not gonna act like subtlety is its best, is like it's still like a superhero movie, and it still has some of the issues that a lot of superhero movies do, where subtlety is not exactly like, its strategy. But I think for a more accessible story about mental disorders and stuff like that, I think this definitely is a very good example. Like, I mean, I felt this, and I think a lot of people can go into this, and if they have struggled with, certain issues, it can resonate with them, and it did for me. And there were things that they said or things that were shown that I think were handled pretty well. And it was nice to see in a movie like this. Again, it's not like this is breaking new ground. Not even like for a comic book movie. There have been mental health problems in others, but to see such a strong focus and a well done execution is really nice. And it didn't even feel that like, it didn't feel forced. It felt like that was the point of the movie, was, finding purpose, especially considering what the archetype of these characters are. Again, all right, this might be getting more spoilery, so I guess if you just truly want to go in blind, stop watching. Or even then, if you just don't want to know anything else of what I just said, just quit. I can't believe how often I'm telling you to stop watching the video. I think something very effective about this is that a reason why I didn't even have any interest in this going in is I didn't really care about any of these characters, because I didn't really like any of the movies or shows that they were from. Like, I did not like the Black Widow movie. I didn't like Ant-Man and the Wasp or whatever. I didn't even watch the Captain America Winter Soldier, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show. I didn't even watch that. And none of these characters really interested me. I didn't hate them, but I just didn't think anything had been done where I'm like, I gotta see where this goes, or I gotta see this fun team up of all my favorite characters. But the movie really handles that really well, where it's like, I feel like, in a way, they kind of expected you to feel like that. I mean, look, this is clearly, like, one of their post, like, soft reboot after, they changed, like, they're not doing Kang Dynasty anymore, now they're doing Doomsday. And I imagine a lot of, like, projects that we've been seeing have been changed because of that. And, this is definitely, I mean, I even read there were a lot of rewrites, which I think, that definitely changed a lot, and I feel like this movie did kind of become, like, both a character redemption in terms of both in-universe and both for us, the viewer. Because I really liked, like, pretty much every main character and everyone in the cast. Like, these characters that I did not even think about after watching what they were from ended up becoming, like, some of my favorites, and I really can't wait to see, like... That's another thing, I can't wait to see what they do after this, because it made me interested in what they were going to do, because it felt like something where we will actually see the payoff of. It doesn't feel like, previous movies where they will introduce a character or a thing, and then we haven't seen so many of these characters in, like... We haven't seen Spider-Man in, like, approaching 4 years, And we probably won't see him for more, until the next movie next year. But, I truly believe... I mean, we know we're going to see these characters again, because most of them have been cast in Doomsday. So, and it seems like they're actually doing something with that, and it's like, oh, they made it, so now I'm actually interested in seeing where they take these characters. Which is not something I have felt in a Marvel movie in a very long time, and kind of reminds me why I both liked the MCU in the past, and what I like about Marvel and comics now, where it's, it made the universe feel a little more, like, defined, I guess. Like, it made it, there are a lot of ongoing, you know, characters, stories, and stuff like that, because that's the thing you get when you have, like, an interconnected universe, is you have all these narratives and stuff going on with different characters. And Thunderbolts definitely felt like it was pushing the, like, a big narrative, you know, the main, like, on Earth, sort of the Avengers type of narrative, where, you know, we don't get that often lately. And I mean, like, if I feel like it succeeded where stuff like Brave New World didn't. So that's nice. That's what I liked. More specifics. The first half was pretty good. Pretty damn good, dare I say. It, you know, it was very much, you know, it definitely had elements of what I was talking about with, like, you know, the more personal elements, but jeez, said that multiple times. But it was very much, you know, fun Marvel movie. Second half was where the money is, because that's where we got way more into it. And I walked out of that pretty damn pleased. Also, the look of the movie I thought was pretty good, because at least in comparison to not just other Marvel movies, but just like the general state of like how blockbuster movies have looked lately, where we forgot how to light things, we forgot how, you know, also CGI has been a little weird, but like lighting especially, and this is not like probably as much CGI as, say, you know, I don't know, what was the Deadpool? What was the last like big CGI movie, whatever? I think the movie looked pretty good. I thought there were a lot of great shots. It felt like it had actual cinematography. I love cinematography. It felt like it had actual, like, you know, thought behind a lot of the shots, especially when you look back, which, you know, that's also nice, where like a lot of Marvel movies have started to feel like SNL sketches or commercials, where everything's super flat. There doesn't feel like there's much motivation behind the actual camera work, but I actually felt like they tried this time, which is nice. It just felt... a lot of stupid people have been saying this is Marvel's first indie movie, which is like, I feel like you're missing the point of what indie actually... I mean, literally, you're missing that point. But if I want to be a little sleazeball, I can understand where they're coming from, because it is probably the most, not the most, but it's one of the more personal stories in terms of, like, we're getting in, the motivation comes from the character's, like, mind state, is that even mindset, or, like, you know, their mental issues. The Sentry, who, you know, I thought he was handled really well. I think, like, his sort of inner turmoil is pretty, like, you know, that's pretty damn important to the character. It's not one-to-one, especially with his origin, but I think in terms of what he's become, I think that this was a pretty great way to adapt it, and I like how they definitely gave it the focus it needed to really, you know, feel like something special. And also the visual look of, like, the Void version of him, which is in the trailers. Again, I told you to click off if you don't want spoilers, but, like, the visual that is so cool. I love, like, the two little beady eyes and, like, the full just shadow. And when he uses the power to, like, turn people into the shadows, that's just such a, like, you really feel that in the theater while you're watching it. It's like, it really, I just love how quick it is, and it's just like, damn. I really like a lot of the visual styles and a lot of the visual things and flares that they go for. Again, okay, the movie's not perfect, but I'm not really thinking about any, like, glaring issues. I think the only things that would detract from it are just my personal preferences. Whereas sometimes, I mean, yeah, like, it still has bits of the Marvel humor, which, you know, I got pretty sick of, like many people. It's not full, he's right behind me, isn't he? But there are some things where I'm just like, alright, yeah, this is pretty damn Marvel. And that can get a little much. But again, that's kind of just... it doesn't overstay its welcome. And I'm not going to act like in this movie it's not without its charm. So, make of that what you will. But overall, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. These videos are not very well structured. They're kind of just me literally rambling. But I don't know. This is just, it's just, I've been thinking about this movie more than I have with previous Marvel ones, Marvel joints. I liked Deadpool and Wolverine a lot because I really, it's kind of like just a lot of what this movie wasn't, in a way, of like, it's much more on the joke side. But I don't know. I really like those characters. I like Deadpool and Wolverine. What's not for me to like there then? I really liked it. I thought it was fun, but I mean, it very much is theme park cinema, where this feels much more like I will probably remember the themes of this movie, where I don't remember. I don't know if Deadpool and Wolverine even had themes. It kind of did, but I don't know. Was that the focus? It was kind of more focused on let's be entertaining, and that's fine, Not every movie has to be, like, super serious and super in your face with its themes, or whatever. But it's nice when you get variety, and I'm hoping that's what they do, because I have been thinking about it, because I think that's another thing. This really did feel like, a Marvel movie from, like, 2014, where, like, I feel like we're actually going to see what happens next, instead of, being left in the, is this just going to be a scrapped plot line? Because we know it's going to come back, because it's already been confirmed. And the directions that they're taking it actually feel like they're pushing the needle forward. They're pushing the narrative forward in a franchise that has felt like it's been how long? Like, it's been 6 years since Endgame, and, like, I truly don't know what's happened since then. And that's pretty nice. That is pretty nice, if you ask me. I mean, just think about, like, all that, like, think about 6 years before Endgame. That was 2013. There were, like, in between 2013 and 2019, there were, like, so many new characters. There was and Age of Ultron and Infinity War. There were things happening. Nothing's really happened since then. I'm still worried about Doomsday. That is a conversation for another time, but I'm very worried about it just because I don't know. I don't care. I may as well. With the whole, like, Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom thing, it's just like they have to be a damn miracle worker to pull that off, because that's already, like, so like, not the character, and just so, like, do you understand why this character works? Because first off, you're casting someone where, like, the only way we're gonna know it's him is if you show his face to a character where the whole point is that you don't see his face, And, like, I don't know why they're making him an Iron Man variant, and they said they're not gonna really make the whole Reed Richards thing a big deal, where it's just like, that's so not, just make a different character at that point. I don't see why you gotta bring him into this, but again, I haven't seen it. Maybe they're cooking. Maybe they're cooking something up. I don't know. But I haven't seen any of the Fantastic Four trailers because I don't want to, like, spoil anything for myself. Because I really do like the Fantastic Four, and I really, really hope that movie's good. But I was thinking about it, like, we have Thunderbolts, and then after this we have Fantastic Four, and then there's Doomsday, and then there's Spider-Man, where if it's like if all of those movies are really, not even really good, if all those movies are just good, they're just solid movies that, like, push the needle forward and just get us back into it, I think that could pull these movies out of the rut that they're in, which that would be very nice. It's weird to be rooting for this, but I kind of just miss it. I just think there's so much potential from comics that have not and are not being utilized in movies. And that even goes back to, like, the original pre-Endgame stuff. But I don't know. I just think that comics are a very a perfectly fine resource to pull stories from. And I like seeing them adapted. Even though this movie was pretty damn different from the Thunderbolts in the comics, but it felt like something of, it's like an example of pulling from the comics and adapting it into something that would work in the MCU. That's not to say the Thunderbolts, like the pure Thunderbolt experience from the comics wouldn't work, but let's just keep it small right now. I think what they did is perfectly good for the narrative. So I recommend I recommend Thunderbolts. I'm excited to see where the MCU goes from here, which is something I haven't said in a very long time. Even though I liked previous ones, I liked No Way Home, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy, and I liked Deadpool, but like those were very self-contained, and I left those, you know, specifically Spider-Man, I left being curious for the Spider-Man series, but not the larger MCU. Where after Thunderbolts, I'm curious what they're gonna do after this, which is nice. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. So yeah, check it out if you care. So see ya. Bye.